All right, let me tell you a story about a kid who did not have it handed to him. This is the journey of Fabio Macedo, a player who went from being completely overlooked at an event to signing a professional scholarship with a first division club in Spain. And trust me, it didn't happen overnight. So to start this story, let's rewind about a year and a half ago. Fabio shows up at one of our events. He's 18. He's got a bit of that winger spark, you know what I mean? And honestly, he just stood out to me straight away. But for whatever reason, no club that we brought over at the event selected him. But personally, I didn't really care because I kind of wanted to take a punt on him. So when it came down to the selection period, you know, it was easy to pick sort of the first two players. And then I really fought for getting Fabio as the third pick. And we ended up actually sponsoring him at the event for 1 month. But obviously we took him to a completely different club, not the clubs we had at the event. And that's really where this whole journey kicked off. So we sent Fabio overseas to Spain to a fourth division club, Real Ávila. He was there for about 3 months. He did really well. You know, he played with the under-19s, played with the senior B team as well. The club really liked him. Like, they liked him so much that they actually registered him for the last 2 months that he was there, and he was competing, you know, with the under-19s and the senior B team. Like, he was in the league even while he was trialing. But they weren't ready to bump him up to the senior team, you know, the A team, right? And that was the sticking point, you know, because basically these smaller clubs, while you know, access is easier, they don't have that much funds as bigger teams. And so if you're not really good enough for that sort of first team, you're not getting re-signed, or in this case, signed for next season. So they couldn't justify financially supporting him if he wasn't good enough for that first team. And in their opinion, he wasn't. In my opinion, he was. But in their opinion, he wasn't. So obviously, you know, unfortunate. This happens all the time in football. Fabio comes back home unsuccessful. You know, we stay in touch. We're still supporting him. Honestly, just looking at other clubs, you know, he makes it apparent that he wants to go back over. He wants to, you know, try again. And we start doing that work, that process again. We start reaching out to more clubs. We are focusing in on those sort of fourth, fifth division clubs. You know, my idea was actually to send him to the Madrid region and, you know, bounce him around for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, right? And in the meantime, liaising and doing all this work and you know, really prepping for him to go overseas, there was really only like 2 months left. We had another event in Sydney where Fabio's from, and you know, and I tell him and his dad Dino, like, come through, you know, you might as well. I know the clubs that we were bringing were sort of first division, second division clubs, not quite what we're aiming for Fabio, but you might as well, right? You got nothing to lose. And he was hesitant, but in the end, he did end up showing up to this other event. And this is where it starts to get really interesting, because at this event, like I mentioned, we had 2 first division clubs and a second division club, right? We brought, was it our recent events? We had Celta, Leganés, second division, and Levante, first division. All very big clubs from Spain. And Fabio, he just shows up. He just performs. He just smashes it out of the park. I have no complaints. Probably like a flawless 2-day performance. I don't think I saw him miss a single pass. I don't think I saw him mess up at all in those 2 days, right? Like, flawless. And guess what? Celta, who was representing them, Pablo, really takes a liking to Fabio. And, you know, he started making comments here and there. I start pointing out, you know, he tells me he needs a 6, and I'm obviously straight up. I know I can vouch for Fabio, you know, he's good, just keep an eye on him. And, you know, lo and behold, a little liaising, he starts to see him more as a 6 than as a winger, and beautiful. After the second day, you know, we have a chat over dinner with Pablo from Celta, and he tells me that he wants to bring Fabio in for the season. You know, he needs a 6 and he thinks it'd be perfect, and he can sign him up straight away. Yeah, I got to call Fabio straight away and tell him the good news, and he sort of had sort of the couple of nights to sort of think about it and digest it, and ultimately he took it, obviously, and it was, you know, a full scholarship. You know, the best part now is that Fabio's overseas and he's at Celta, he's in Spain. He's initially signed for Celta Senior C team, right? Celta Academy's C team, and he's scoring goals. You know, he's thriving. And the beautiful thing about the football world is that there's always these full circle moments. We had to cancel the plans I had for him for Madrid. He took a chance, he came to an event, it ended up working, you know, better than anyone would have imagined. You know, he got that scholarship that he was initially looking at for a much smaller team that he didn't get it because the people there didn't see the value in him. And this is why I always talk about sort of opinions don't really matter, because you just need to expose yourself as much as possible. But the full circle moment that life gives you is that he's in Spain right now. He's at Celta. He texted me the other day telling me that he went to go watch Celta's senior B team compete against another team. And the guy, the scout, the sort of managing operations guy, whose call essentially was to either bring Fabio, retain him, sign him for Real Ávila or not, right? The guy that had that power, the one that ultimately said no to him, has now moved to a different team, and that team happened to be versing Celta's Senior B team, and he was there in the stands, and they had that run-in moment where said hello, shook hands, you know, and I asked Fabio, I was like, did you rub it in this guy's face? Did you call him an asshole for not believing in you or whatever? Did you tell him, look at me now, I'm first division Senior C team? But no, the good thing about Fabio is he's a much better person than I am. He didn't take that chance, and he remained his humble self, which is obviously the right thing to do. But I think it's just awesome. It's awesome that, he could just show, like, just the presence, the fact that he knows he was there. I'm sure the guy sees our socials or whatever. So it's like one of those things where I know it's satisfying. I don't need to talk to Fabio about it to know that it was satisfying to even just have that be an outcome for you. So anyways, well, what's the takeaway here? Look, Fabio's journey is the journey from being overlooked to finding the right fit. It's not always the first club or the first position that you find yourself in. It's all about persistence and exposure, right? And that's what we do at EFA. We find that right fit, even if it takes a couple of tries. And actually, Fabio made history because he's actually the first player in like the last 5 years that I had get signed directly from an event. So that's pretty cool. If you want to hear more stories like this, or if you think your kid needs to be listening to me every single week, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, share it with a mate. It helps me make more free value videos, and it will help a lot of other players, which in turn is what I'm looking for. And if you want to talk to my team, have any questions, want to talk about our pathways or what we can actually offer you, or if we can even help you like we did Fabio, link is down in the description.